Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast. We are diving headfirst into Chapter 229 today, One Last Big Shot.
And what a title. It seems to promise a conclusion, a finality. But for us, for the Straw Hats, it feels like the fuse has just been lit.
A beginning that involves being fired out of the ocean like a cannonball. We find out exactly how to get to Sky Island, and the answer is somehow even more ridiculous and dangerous than I could have possibly imagined. It is a perfect Straw Hat plan.
It's barely a plan at all. It's more of a controlled catastrophe, a proposal to the universe to see if it will accept.
Exactly. And if you want to be here when we see that catastrophe pay off, maybe send this episode to a friend who's just as ready to see the Going Merry take flight. The more Nakama on this voyage, the better. All right, Robin, let's get into it. Cricket is about to lay it all out for them.
He gathers them around a table, the storm having passed both literally and figuratively, and he lays down a simple yet profound condition. I'm going to tell you everything I know about Sky Island. Your only job is to believe me.
And Luffy, without a single hesitation, without blinking, just goes, okay. No questions, no suspicion. This weird guy they just met, who they were fighting an hour ago over some misunderstanding about gold, says, believe me. And for Luffy, that's enough. That's the captain right there. There's no calculation. It's pure instinct.
It's a level of trust that most people like Bellamy, would find foolish. They would see it as a vulnerability to be exploited. But it's the thing that draws people like Cricket to him. It's a kind of perception. Luffy doesn't analyze a person's words for deception. He seems to perceive the truth of their soul. He heard the dream in Cricket's voice, and that was all the proof he needed.
It's true. He's like a dream detector. If you've got a real, genuine dream, he's on your side. End of story. He doesn't need a resume or a background check. He needed it with you, but you were a special case.
I was a very special case, but even then, he made a choice to trust me on the bridge in Alabasta, a choice that made no logical sense. Cricket is receiving that same illogical, unconditional trust here. He's been mocked and isolated for his entire adult life because of his ancestor's dream, and in 1 second, Luffy validates the whole thing.
So Cricket starts explaining the first big mystery of Jaya, how night can fall in the middle of the day, and right away Luffy and Usopp are like, yeah, we saw that, and there were giant monsters in the sky. They're practically buzzing with excitement.
They're connecting it back to their first day on the island. I remember seeing those silhouettes and having no idea what we were looking at. It felt like such a random, spooky detail, and now we're seeing that seed begin to sprout. It's a confirmation for them that they weren't just hallucinating.
Cricket kind of brushes past the monster part, which is hilarious. He's so focused on the logistics that the existence of colossal city-sized beings in the sky is just a minor detail to him. He's like, yeah, monsters, whatever. Let me explain the science. He says the darkness isn't night, it's a shadow.
A shadow cast by a cloud, and Nami, ever the brilliant navigator and our voice of scientific reason, immediately calls foul. She's the expert here. She knows the sky. She says no cloud shadow could be that absolute, that dark, that it could blot out the sun and create a false night. It violates the basic principles of meteorology as she understands it.
Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper just pile on. They're like, dude, a cloudy day is just cloudy. This was pitch black. You're an idiot. I love that they have zero deference. They'll trust them with their lives and their dream, but they will absolutely 100% call him an idiot to his face if his explanation sounds dumb.
It's a very specific kind of respect. They respect his dream, but they aren't going to blindly accept his reasoning. He has to yell at them to shut up and listen. The cloud isn't normal. He gives it a name that sounds like it was pulled from a poneglyph, a Millennium Cumulonimbus.
What a name. It sounds so official and so completely made up at the same time. It's so perfect for this world. It's like something a kid would invent to win an argument, but it's presented with such gravity that you have to take it seriously. It's not just a big cloud, it's an ancient cloud.
He says it's a cloud that hasn't changed its form in thousands, maybe millions of years. It's a permanent fixture in the sky, a floating continent of water vapor and, as it's implied, something else. It contains its own unique environment.
Nami still doesn't buy it, scientifically. You can see the gears turning in her head, trying to make it make sense. But Luffy just dubs it a mystery cloud, and he's totally on board. If it's a mystery, it's worth exploring. That's his entire philosophy of life in 2 words. Mystery is not a barrier, it's an invitation.
And this is the core of it. Cricket says if a sky island exists, if the city of gold Noland saw is real, it can only be in one place, on top of that cloud. The cloud itself is the foundation.
The second he says that, it's a party. The confirmation is all they needed. Luffy's already yelling, "Set sail for the sky," and you can feel the excitement from everyone. The dream is real. Their entire reason for coming to Jaya, for enduring Bellamy's mockery and the humiliation in that bar, it's all validated in this one moment.
But Nami, always the pragmatist, brings them crashing back to Earth, literally. How? She asks. It's the most important question. They have a ship that sails on water. They don't have a plane. They don't have a rocket. How do you sail a caravel thousands of meters into the air?
This is where it gets good. This is where the true, beautiful insanity of One Piece kicks in. Cricket explains the one method he knows of, the only way to get up there, the knock-up stream.
Just the name itself is so perfectly descriptive and violent. It's not an ascension current or a skyward geyser. It's a knock-up stream. It sounds like a punch.
It's a massive, super-pressurized geyser of seawater that erupts from the ocean floor with unimaginable force and shoots straight up into the sky, like a volcano but with ocean. Can you even imagine the geological forces at play to make that happen? The pressure chamber under the seabed must be the size of a country.
And it's the only way he knows of to reach that cloud. You have to find the precise location where it's going to erupt at the exact right time and ride the pillar of water thousands of meters into the air. It is, by any rational measure, a suicidal act.
The sheer physics of that are terrifying. As a shipwright, my skin is crawling just thinking about it. The G-forces, the turbulence, the pressure of the water hitting the hull, it would tear a normal ship to pieces. The keel would snap, the mast would splinter, the planks would be ripped right off the frame. And Cricket says as much. You have to be incredibly lucky, insanely lucky to even survive the trip.
Usopp hears this explanation and immediately tries to pull the plug. He's our anchor to reality. He's like, trip canceled, new destination. Anywhere on the horizontal plane is fine. I hear the next island has very nice and very flat beaches.
You can't blame him. He's the voice of reason here. This is a suicide mission. But Luffy, of course, with that boundless optimism that borders on delusion, just says it'll all be okay. His faith is unshakable. He doesn't see the risk. He only sees the destination.
Usopp points out the obvious and very valid flaw in Luffy's faith. The Going Merry is a wonderful ship. She's their home, their nakama, but she's not built to be a rocket. She's a caravel designed for sailing, not for atmospheric re-entry and reverse. He screams that she'd be splintered into 1,000 pieces. He's defending the ship as much as he's defending his own life.
And this is where the Sarayama alliance comes back in. Cricket says not to worry. Masira and Shoujo, the salvage guys, the monkey man and the sonar gorilla, they can reinforce the ship to handle it.
Let's pause on that for a moment. Think about what this means. The 2 captains they were just at odds with, the ones who were fighting Cricket over this treasure, are now tasked with modifying the Straw Hat ship for an impossible journey. They're a pit crew. It's a complete reversal from just a few hours prior.
That's the magic of this arc, bro. It's so good. They're all dreamers. They were fighting over the same dream, the same romance. But once Luffy proved his conviction by not fighting Bellamy and then by coming back and showing he's a true adventurer, they're all on the same team. They recognize a kindred spirit. They're going to put their own skills, their salvage and engineering knowledge, to work to help a fellow idiot achieve the impossible. It's beautiful.
The alliance is officially formed, not through a formal declaration or a shared cup of sake, but through a shared insane goal, a common enemy of the impossible.
But then Nami, our beloved navigator in Killjoy, hits them with the logistics again. The knock-up stream doesn't just happen anywhere, anytime. It only erupts 5 times a month, and the location shifts. It has to be in the perfect spot, right under Skypiea, for them to have a chance, and their window is closing. They only have 1 day before the log post resets and points to a new island. The odds are impossible.
She's laying out why it can't be done. The timing is too tight, the conditions too specific. She's trying to protect them by showing them the mathematical improbability of it all. It's like trying to catch a specific bolt of lightning in a bottle. That bottle is about to expire.
And Usopp asks the million-dollar question, the one that's supposed to be the nail in the coffin of this whole stupid plan. So when's the next one? And Cricket just drops it like it's nothing. Tomorrow at noon.
The look on Usopp's face must have been a masterpiece of horror. The sound of his jaw hitting the floor probably echoed across the island.
The perfect, impossible timing. It's so narratively convenient that it circles back around to being brilliant. It feels like the story itself is winking at us, saying the adventure doesn't wait for schedules. The stage is set. The time is now. It removes all possibility of backing out. There are no more excuses.
Or perhaps it's fate. Why does their one-day window line up perfectly with this rare phenomenon? It feels like the world itself, the story, is pushing them towards this path. We've seen it before, like with the lightning that saved Luffy in Logtown. The sea has a will of its own, and right now, it seems to be willing them into the sky.
That's a good way to put it. It's like the sea is telling them where they need to go. But for Usopp, the voice of terrified reason, this is the final straw. It's all too perfect. It's too good to be true.
He snaps. All the fear that has been building inside him, all his natural pessimism, it just erupts. He accuses Cricket of lying about everything.
This scene is so tough to watch, but it's so real. Usopp's fear and his deeply ingrained cynicism just boil over. He says they just met this guy, he's being way too nice, he's offering to modify their ship for free, and now this impossible timeline just happens to work out perfectly. It has to be a trap. He's concocting a conspiracy theory on the spot to justify his own terror.
It's a manifestation of his own deep-seated imposter syndrome. He doesn't feel like he belongs on this insane adventure, so he projects that doubt outward. He thinks, this is too crazy for me, so it must be a lie. And then he delivers the lowest blow possible. He says, of course you're lying. You're Nolan's descendant after all.
Ooh, that line hits like a punch to the gut. He uses the very stigma, the very curse that has haunted Cricket's family for generations as a weapon against him. He's basically saying, you come from a line of liars, so you must be one too. It's an incredibly cruel thing to say.
In that moment, Usopp is no better than the people in the Nolan stories who mocked him, or the people of Jaya who mock Cricket now. He's using the same lazy, prejudiced logic. It's a moment of profound weakness for him, where his fear overwhelms his compassion. He's trying to make Cricket the villain so he has a reason to be afraid.
Luffy tries to stop him, to shut it down, but Usopp just yells at him to shut up. He's too far into his panic spiral to be reached. And right at the peak of this horrible, tense accusation, Masira, Shoujo, and Sanji pop out of the house wearing aprons and say the food is ready. The silence that follows is so loud. It's such a classic One Piece move. The drama is immediately undercut by the mundane, by the simple human act of preparing a meal. It just makes the whole situation more awkward and more human. It shatters the tension and leaves Usopp's cruel words hanging in the air, exposed and ugly.
And Cricket's response? It's what makes him such an amazing character. It's not anger. It's not indignation. He doesn't defend himself. He just looks at them, at this chaotic crew, and says he's just happy. Happy to have met idiots like them.
He sees their chaotic energy, their impossible dream, their internal conflicts, their fears and their loyalties, and he's not put off by it. He feels a kinship. He spent his life alone, diving for a dream no one else believed in, and now his house is full of people who are just as crazy as he is. Usopp's outburst wasn't an insult, it was just more proof that these are his people. He sees himself in them.
He invites them all in to eat, and he looks right at Usopp and calls him comrade. That one word just breaks Usopp. It's a word of acceptance and camaraderie, offered right after Usopp's betrayal. He realizes what he's done. He turns to Nami, his voice cracking, and just asks, am I a miserable coward? And Nami, in a perfect Nami moment, doesn't coddle him. She doesn't say, no, of course not, you were just scared. She gives him the hard truth. She replies, and a jerk. Go apologize.
No sugarcoating it. She tells him exactly what he is in that moment, but also tells him how to fix it. It's so efficient and so effective. And he does. He runs up and just hugs Cricket, sobbing and apologizing. It's so raw and so honest.
It's a complete emotional reset. The conflict is resolved not with fists, but with a meal and an honest apology. It speaks volumes about the crew's dynamic and the kind of people they attract. They're allowed to make mistakes. They're allowed to be weak, as long as they own it and make it right.
And then it's a full-on party. The Straw Hats and the Sariyama Alliance feasting and drinking together. All the earlier tension is just gone, washed away by food and shared purpose. This is what One Piece is all about. Finding your family in the strangest places, fighting with them, and then sharing a meal like nothing ever happened.
And while they party and get rowdy, I get to do my work. Or my counterpart on the crew does.
Right. While everyone else is singing and dancing, Robin is off in a corner, completely absorbed in reading Mont Blanc Nolan's actual logbook from 400 years ago. What a treasure trove that must be. For a historian like you, that's better than a mountain of gold.
It's the difference between hearing a legend and reading the primary source. It seems to confirm that his voyages were real, that the places he described existed. But Cricket brings up the central mystery, the reason his family name was destroyed. The final sentence Nolan ever wrote, the one that got him executed. There lies the gold in the skull's right eye.
Cricket admits he has no idea what it means. He's been diving, searching for a literal skull-shaped rock with gold in its eye socket. He's been taking it at its most literal, and it's led him nowhere. So Nolan wasn't a liar, he was just cryptic. He left a clue, not a map. And that clue, that one poetic sentence, has ruined his family's name for 400 years. That's heavy. The weight of your ancestors' last words shaping your entire destiny.
It reframes the entire legend. The question isn't, did the City of Gold exist? The logbook seems to confirm it did. The question is, what did Nolan mean? What is the skull? Where is its right eye? It elevates the story from a simple treasure hunt to an archaeological mystery.
It's an amazing setup. A centuries-old mystery, a family's honor on the line, and our crew has stumbled right into the middle of it. But just as the party is hitting its peak, as everyone is full of food and hope for the journey ahead, as Masira and Shoju are starting to work on the merry...
A ship appears on the horizon. A familiar, gaudy, obnoxious ship. Bellamy's flag.
Of course he's coming back. The hyena couldn't just let it go. He saw that gold pillar Luffy brought up from the salvage. He knows there's something here. His greed has overpowered his cynical philosophy.
Or perhaps it's not about the gold. He can't stand the idea of someone pursuing a dream he declared dead. He built his entire identity on the premise that the age of dreams is over. To see a crew of dreamers on the verge of finding something real, it threatens his entire worldview.
He especially can't stand the idea of them succeeding. The party's about to be crashed, and I don't think it's going to be a friendly visit. He's not coming for a drink. He's not coming to talk.
No, he's coming to extinguish the flame, to prove his point, with violence if necessary.
And that's where the chapter ends. A perfect cliffhanger. Man, what an incredible setup chapter. It gives us the destination, the method, the stakes, the personal connection to Cricket, the 400-year-old mystery, and the villain's impending return all in one. It's a masterclass in pacing.
It feels like the launch sequence has begun. Every system is coming online. Every piece is moving into place for the trip to Skypiea.
You know, it makes me think about music, like the difference between 70s soul and modern soul. This arc feels like that. It's taking this old school adventure story, this classic treasure hunt theme that feels very 70s pulp, and giving it a fresh, modern, completely ridiculous spin.
A knock-up stream is definitely a new spin on nautical travel. It's less of a sea shanty and more of a punk rock anthem.
It really is. A whole new rhythm for the Grand Line. Okay, before we get to predictions, if you love seeing the Straw Hats find new allies and build these incredible bonds as much as we do, let us know your favorite non-crew alliance in the comments. I'm telling you, the Sariyama alliance is climbing my list fast.
It's a strong contender, so pure in its shared absurdity. All right, predictions for chapter 230. I'll start.
Lay it on me.
My first prediction: Bellamy isn't just coming for a fight or to steal their gold. He's going to see the Going Merry being modified by Masira and Shoju. He'll assume it's being retrofitted for some advanced form of deep-sea salvage, not for flying, because flying is a dream. He's going to try and steal the ship itself. He'll want the superior tool that he thinks they're building, not just the treasure it finds.
Oh, I like that. He's a pragmatist, a realist. Of course he'd see the modified Mary as a piece of advanced technology for plundering. He'd want the superior tech. That's a good one. It raises the stakes beyond just gold.
My second prediction concerns Nolan's riddle. The skull's right eye is not a physical place on the island of Jaya. I think the island of Jaya itself, as it currently exists, is shaped like a skull. We haven't seen an aerial map of it yet, but I suspect we will. The right eye is the precise geographical location where the knock-up stream will erupt. Nolan's final words weren't a treasure map to a location on the ground. They were a map marker for a celestial event.
Whoa, so Nolan wasn't just telling them where the gold was, he was telling them how to get back to it after it was launched into the sky. That connects everything. The riddle isn't about the past, it's instructions for the future. That's a classic Robin-level theory right there. Super! Okay, that's my one for the episode. Had to use it there.
It felt appropriate. Thank you. Now, your turn. What does the shipwright see coming?
All right, prediction 1. This is going to be the thing that finally makes Luffy fight Bellamy for real. It's not going to be a rematch for Luffy's honor. Bellamy and his crew are going to wreck the place, they're going to break the Sarayama Alliance's stuff, and they're going to badly injure Cricket. It won't be about the mockery anymore. It'll be about defending a friend and his dream. Luffy will see what Bellamy did to a fellow dreamer, a guy who gave them food and is helping them, and that will be the trigger.
An attack on Cricket is an attack on the very idea of romance and adventure that Cricket embodies. Luffy ignored the attack on his own dream, but he will not tolerate an attack on a friend's. I can see that being his breaking point.
Exactly. My second prediction is about the ship modifications. It's not just going to be reinforcing the hull and sealing the cabin. I think Masira and Shoju are going to add something completely wild and visual to the Going Merry. I'm talking deployable wings that look comically small, or some kind of fin system for stability. And I bet they'll give it a name, like a chicken voyage mode, referencing the chicken-like head they wanted to give Cricket's house. It's going to be a visual gag that turns out to be shockingly functional.
A flying ship that looks like a chicken. I can absolutely picture that in this world. It would be a perfect blend of goofy and brilliant, perfectly encapsulating the spirit of this entire endeavor.
It's the Straw Hat way. All right, those are our predictions. Bellamy's on his way, the Mary's getting an upgrade, and the knock-up stream is just a day away. The countdown to Skypiea has officially begun. Join us next time as we see if the hyena gets what's coming to him. Until then, keep chasing that horizon.